Before I start, short story. 3 months ago, I was walking in the center of Rome. It was sunny weather, and I was enjoying my delicious Italian pizza. And then, at some point, I got a message from Christoph. So we had a short chat, and he asked me a simple question. Are you going to be in Chiang Mai mid-January? And by coincidence, I was planning a travel with my family the same dates. And by the way, they are now chilling in Koh Samui, waiting until I finish, but here I am. And I also found out that I'm the last speaker. So meaning that your whole experience and aftertaste of the event partially depends whether I screw up my presentation. No pressure, maybe just Christoph a little bit, but let's just relax. And to the point. So for 20 years, the most single important metric that marketers were following when it comes to search engines was just get the click. But in 2026, this game is over. You see, according to some studies, roughly 60% of search experiences end up with 0 clicks. Why? Well, simply because users are not looking for a set of 10 blue links anymore. They're looking for an answer. So if you're just referenced as a source, you might be invisible. In order to succeed in the AI time, you need to become an answer itself. And here's another study by Semrush. It's forecasted that by 2028, roughly 75% of the search revenue will be driven by AI. Well, it doesn't mean that AI will go and make a purchase on your behalf. No. But it means that 3 out of 4 customers will ask AI for a product recommendation, even before they open their wallet. And this is happening already. You see, one of my businesses is a permanent makeup beauty studio, which we run with my wife. And just last month, I get 5 new leads coming from ChatGPT. How do I know that? Well, very simple. We ask questions, how did you hear about us? And we start hearing ChatGPT recommended. So I realized as a marketer myself that the search behavior change isn't the future. It's now. And most of the businesses are not even aware of this happening. But, who am I? Like, why you need to listen to me? Well, let me introduce myself. So my name is Konstantin. I'm from Estonia. I am in SEO since 2009, and I run 2 businesses. One of them is an AI SEO agency that helps SaaS startups and enterprises in US and Europe to increase online visibility. And an interesting fact, my largest client has recently raised above $1 billion USD in a single funding round. So I know something probably. And today I'm going to share exactly strategies that you can implement in your business. But before we dive into the topic, let's understand the landscape of AI search. So first of all, the push, right? Typically AI overviews by Google. Why do we call it the push? Well, because users were just looking for some kind of information, and Google pushed that information in front of their eyes. Typically, AI goes to a content and tries to find the best matching sentence or a phrase for the user's search query. So the definition, or the goal is to be the definition. For instance, here's an example, Nomad visa income requirement. So let's say if you are writing a text, if you have a generic intro, don't do that. Be specific, try to write the definition, and then you will be featured as a source, right? Otherwise, if you write fluff, no one will see you. The most popular is the pool. AI mode, Gemini, ChatGPT. So these are conversational models which we use for a deeper discussions, right? So here is where we should use the strategy called fan-out strategy. So what does it mean? Let's assume a user wants to get a Portuguese D7 visa. A regular writer will just make an article listing, I don't know, 5 criteria how to get that. But the pro that understands how LLM function will also uncover all follow-up questions that the user might have once they get the visa, right? So for instance, do I become a tax resident? Can I bring my spouse, etc.? And the thing here, my personal opinion on this is that, because there are 2 ways how you can be featured in LLMs, in this type of LLMs. First, as a source, and the second, as a brand mention. Because we have to understand that the customer journey changes. So right now, when we're looking for some kind of information, let's say commercial product recommendation, you'll get a brand mention. And that's the most important. So you have to learn how to get this brand mention. And the third is the engine, typically like Perplexity. So it's a citation-first search engine. And in order to succeed there, you need to be the data source. Some believe that just using traditional SEO strategies is enough to succeed in LLMs. But here's another study that shows that indeed, Perplexity has 91% overlap with the top search results from Google. However, if we look at the data, for instance, for Google AI mode, which is Gemini, ChatGPT, we see that these are different beasts. These models typically use websites outside of the top search results from Google. So even though SEO fundamental is still an important thing to do, you need to adjust to the new reality. And basically, that's why we're here, right? Another reality check. Some people say, maybe even you believe, some of you, that ChatGPT will kill Google. Indeed, ChatGPT showed a significant growth in the last couple of years. But here's the thing. What LLM know about us? So they know the things we tell them usually, right? Or you can integrate some third-party data to them. But let's say when it comes to Google, they not just know something about us, they own our life. Think about it. They know where you stay this night. You use Google Maps. They know what flight tickets you purchased because they have confirmation on their Gmail. You watch YouTube. And also, some of you pay products with Google Pay. They have a bunch of data. And in terms of search engines, the winner will be the one that has more data. But still, of course, we need to understand that, yeah, ChatGPT is something, but roughly it has like, I don't know, 5%. Do you know anyone that optimizes for Bing? Because Bing has similar numbers, So another thing, some misconceptions, why Google is not dying. You see, Google and Bing, they built the most fascinating libraries our humanity has ever seen. They have to crawl and index billions of pages. And LLMs are typically just a conversational layer on top of it. What does it mean? Let's assume how this typical old-fashioned search engine works. So you go to the librarian and index, and you ask a question. And the librarian comes and brings 10 books and says, yes, please, read them through and find the answer. What the LLM or the analyst does is that it goes to the same crawl, it asks the same question, gets like hundreds of books probably, and then summarizes that and gives you the answer. So you don't have to fool the librarian anymore, like typical SEO does, but you have to make sure that, first of all, your book is the easiest for the analyst to find on the shelf, and that your brand is mentioned in the most important books on the shelf. That's the main point. How does the analyst choose you? Here is where the math comes. So it uses the concept of vector embeddings, meaning that it measures the distance between the concepts. So vector embeddings is just a numerical representation of something, of a word, of a text. So look on the equation, king minus man plus woman equals queen. So for AI, this verse is just a concept that it tries to measure. And you can think about it as a 3D map of the universe where each star represents a word. And now let's go to some of the strategies. So first of all, structure is king. You know, AI is super lazy because, well, it consumes credits, it needs money, someone needs to finance that. So that's why typically it has some token limitation. And if you want to be visible, you need to put the most important information about you in the first 30% of the page. Besides, AI really likes structured, easy extractable data. Think about tables and lists. So for instance, if you're writing a, product review, pricing comparison, don't write that in the text in the paragraphs. Create a data in the table. Because if AI takes your table, it provides that to the client, or to the user, sorry, and then it links back to you. And also, important concept is about breaking your content into clear semantic units. So what does it mean? When you're writing an article, try to divide your article into chunks, or let's say paragraphs, which target a specific idea. So ideal scenario is that you have an article, and then you have a specific heading, which covers a topic, and then the lines that speak about this topic. So don't include all the things in one paragraph because you will confuse the AI. Again, it uses math and measures the distance between the concepts. So let's say if you put in one paragraph information about pricing, features, etc., it will confuse AI because it easily creates a bias there. Another thing is, like, how do you compete with the giants? You know, there are a lot of companies that are on the market for years, investing so much money into, authority of their websites. So you shouldn't be waiting until AI comes to your website and starts magically referencing you in some questions. You have to go where AI is training, right? Because LLMs, they need training data. And here's a study that shows what are the top cited domains by, let's say, most of the models. Because LLMs trust human consensus on Reddit. They also like YouTube content. And they like, or let's say they prefer, authoritative websites. So some advice, especially the best working one, is write a listicle article. For example, top 10 solutions for nomads. And try to publish this article on some third-party reputable website. Also, you can use Reddit. So how we use Reddit, for instance? You can register branded account. You can register employee account working at the company, let's say Konstantin at ethical. Or you, and basically what you do is that you find already ranking Reddit posts in Google, which are relevant to your business, and you can come and have a discussion. You can recommend your brand if it's relevant, of course, because Redditors are they don't like when someone is pushing and is salesy. Or Ask Me Anything campaigns, which basically means that, let's say, I'm Konstantin, I'm digital nomad, I have 15 years of experience traveling throughout the world, ask me anything. So this can make your brand quite viral. And also about YouTube, even though AI models are quite advanced in terms of understanding the content behind the video, always upload transcripts of the video because, again, AI turns that into vector embeddings and then tries to understand how close is that to the search query. And also another thing about information gain, so we know from studies that AI prefers additional information that it didn't know before. So here's an example from one of our clients. So let's say if we would write a copy like SMS Gateway API, well, it's very cool, but there are like millions of pages talking about the same stuff. In order to, let's say, dominate, you need to be very specific. So for instance, multi-channel gateway covering 190 plus territories with smart fallback. So we highlight that it's multi-channel gateway, meaning we cover WhatsApp, Viber, SMS, covering specific countries, numbers, and also it has a feature. So again, for LLMs, information gain is crucial. Don't write fluff. Be more unique with your content. Couple of examples. Remember at the beginning I mentioned that I have a permanent makeup beauty studio. This is my wife, by the way. So we launched this studio 2 years ago, and we are fully smashing the search engines and results in Estonia. Of course, I did fundamental SEO stuff, but also, for instance, we published an article like top 5 best permanent makeup studios in Tallinn. And it works very impressive. Even though AI mode has restrictions in terms of Estonian language, but ChatGPT, for example, works in Estonian, but I showcased here example in English. Another example from our B2B SaaS client called Unium, a Swedish company. We also published a simple article like top 8 subscription management tools. It's outdated here a little bit, but still it works, so it can be kind of evergreen strategies. And what is cool about these listicle articles, because first of all, you don't even need to have a backlink, because those who do SEO, they know you need backlinks, to create authority of the website. You just need a brand mention, which makes it easier, to publish such things. But also, think about it. These articles, they also start ranking. So if a users look for, I don't know, some subscription management software, you land on a website and you start reading this article and, well, you see that there is a brand recommended, which is yours, right? So it's not just training data for LLM, it's a potential client also for this article. So that's why this is just the gold right now. You need to definitely do that in your service or product. Also, a quick solopreneur checklist. So enough theory, let's be more practical. First of all, there is a thing called hallucination. Maybe someone heard about that. It's when LLM provides some kind of wrong information about you. So you can just prompt something to an AI, which, like, for example, what are my brand's key attributes? And you will see if LLM says that, oh, you're a cheap product and you're a premium, probably you have a problem. So you will see the sources, go to that page and adjust the copy. I just read another use case 2 days ago from one well-known SEO software where their CEO mentioned that they checked their top ranking or sourced pages in LLMs. You can find this data in GA4. And by the way, I will show it later as well. So they checked that their top ranking page was an outdated blog post about their pricing. Think about it, what users will have. So they ask something about product pricing, they see information which is outdated, they go on the website, they will be frustrated. So this bias and hallucination is also very, very important. Another thing is that try to include your main keywords in the first 40 characters. So don't make generic entries, be specific, and this will lead for better results. Freshness, studies show that content that is updated every 3 months gets cited 20–30% more. And it's so interesting, I see marketers so much speaking about, oh yeah, we need to publish more content, 10, 20 per month. Guys, just update the article. This is more beneficial than writing always new one. Semantic structure, so as I mentioned, divide your pages into chunks. Each small paragraph, even if it's few lines, paragraph, it's fine. But it should target a specific idea. Fact density, information gain, as I mentioned, try to include some unique facts. So every, 500 words, Don't say it's hot, say average temperature is 32 degrees. Also, for LLMs and for user experience, it's important to have some kind of reference to the author. Don't write articles under admin or whatever. So prove that you are a real human expert. If you have some kind of awards, badges, put that in the top of the page. Remember about that AI is lazy, it might even not see that. Or if you didn't do your platforms, create ones, and definitely collect reviews. This is also very important. So G2, Capterra, Clutch, such type of Trustpilot, such type of review websites. And as I mentioned, appear in the training data. Start with the social media, register basic accounts. If you have resources, go to Reddit or Quora. Benefits of Quora, for instance, is that it's translated to 28 languages, if I'm not mistaken. Reddit is in English, even though there are regional subreddits as well. YouTube is very powerful. Create the same videos as you write articles, if you have possibilities to do that. And niche relevant websites. So you need to have references from well-known books laying on the shelf, as I mentioned, right? So authoritative websites. Okay, but how to measure that, right? So two things. The most important thing is that there's a thing called dark funnel right now. Because from one side, we can measure in GA4, don't worry, there will be a QR code for the presentation as well, so just in case. But you can measure the referral traffic from GA4. You can set up the filters as shown on the screenshot, so you can see how many people come to your website through LLMs. But the problem is that the customer journey has changed. And the way people interact with LLMs is that they are looking for some brand, they get an answer, but there's no link to that brand. Typically, you will go to the search bar and type the brand name, which will trigger either direct traffic or branded search, which means that you can't attribute that to the LLM. That's why there are a lot of new software for tracking brand visibility in LLMs. Has anyone heard about such tools? Okay, got it. So in short, this tool allows you to simulate and mimic some prompts as if your clients are looking. I don't know, if I will be in Estonia, I will be looking for best permanent makeup studio, for example, right? So this is my prompt. And I want to know how many times user will see the brand mentioned. So they will see the brand mention of our studio. The problem here is that all this software, they are connected to AI tools through API connection. And the reality is that API triggers different results to what users see. So it's a vanity metric, it's not reality. But even though a lot of big companies, SaaS companies, invest like hundreds of thousands into this software, but they are really, I think, very poor at this moment. And even if, for example, let's assume you try to prompt a sentence, how the user will be looking for your solution, even if one word will be different, it will trigger different results. So it's irrelevant data. The most secure, I suggest doing self-attribution forms. So let's assume you have on your website, I know, contact us form or demo request or whatever. Just write them, how did you hear about us? And allow the user to write the channel, that's it. The future. So why are we preparing this? You know, the structured data, everything, training data. Well, because we are entering the era of agentic AI. What does it mean? It means that in the future, we won't be searching anything. We'll be asking our assistant, like, hey, Siri, or whatever, can you, I don't know, I want to run a marathon. Can you help me out with finding shoes? My size 43, I know, budget under $200. And then AI will go on the website and just make the purchase on your behalf, and it will order the delivery. That's it. And the funny thing is that for 20 years, we were told, guys, you need to write content for humans. But it turns out we need to write content for machines. Funny, right? Okay, so here's the thing. 20 minutes ago when I started, remember I mentioned something about the fear, right? A fear of screwing up the presentation. You know, I wasn't speaking about like forgetting the slides. You see, the thing is that for all my life I was hiding. I was kind of avoiding some situations, meeting new people, speaking on the stage, and I was allowing my fear to drive my behavior. You see, the problem is that I was born with a hand trauma. And it turned out that in my life, I've not always met kind people. So why I'm telling this to you? We often forget about our uniqueness. We often are afraid of speaking loud to the world what we can do. So I want to remind you so that you should be not afraid and you should be visible. Because that's the only way how you can find people who actually care about you. Thank you.